Yeah, it is really funny.
Yeah.
Like thinking about it in hindsight, that the antagonist of the movie stole a thing from a yard sale.
Well, no, the antagonist is Stinky Pete.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
But
But the alternate antagonist, just like
Secondary,
it's
yeah.
like, yeah, no, my my villain origin story is that I stole a toy from a yard
that,
sale.
that movie kind of has three villains because you have like number one is Stinky Pete, two is him.
There's also
And
Zurg.
then, three is Zurg, but Zurg ends up being chill.
Zurg's just kind of a he's just kind of a chill guy.
My son.
He's kind of a chiller. I hope this conversation comes through on the recording too.
Well, see, if you don't appreciate Toy Story 2, then
You don't appreciate art.
yeah. I do love one of the commercials for like the first Toy Story on DVD. Like the music choices, the boys are back in town. It's like I guess they are kind of the boys. Like when you're a kid, Buzz and Woody are your boys. And sometimes Slinky or Slink. Rex, Potato Head. I don't even think they sell that kind of Potato Head anymore.
Probably not vintage at this point.
Yeah, I think the dad got a redesign. It's messed up. Although I do remember that was like a weird, like quote unquote, like, oh, they made it woke now. They made Potato Head too androgynous. It's like I'm sorry. This potato is has too many feminine wiles for you, man. But it's Mr. Potato Head. It's just plastic, dude. He keeps his shoes inside of his butt flap. You know about that? Yes, that's the thing with it. They keep their parts inside like a little flap on the back of their pants. That was a good toy, though.
So-called free thing. Anyways, welcome everyone. We have another meeting for Intro to 2D Mark. Before we start, quick announcement. I said this, or this was said in the announcement beginning this week, but the game for the Video Game Book Club that we're doing is Portal won the game vote, and that will be on October 4th for anyone who's interested. So if you want to participate in that, play the game for October 4th. That's all from
Okay, so with all that said, we're going to go ahead and jump right into our Intro to 2D Game Art workshop. So, 2D art in game dev encompasses a lot of different things and semantics that we'll go over very quickly. First of all, a lot of 2D game art is rendered in the form of sprite art, which is basically just like game terminology for raster art that can be animated. Let's see, here's some varying examples of where sprite art shows up in like a fairly diverse set of games. You've got portrait art, you've got all of Hollow Knight. This is sprite art apparently. I didn't know that.
Yeah, pre-rendered. Well, they can't render that many. They can't render that many polygons in real time. You got to re-render
you can't do that.
It's a PNG.
You also got a lot of pixel art is a very common form of sprite art. Some people even think that it's all of sprite art, but it's not. It's pretty self-explanatory, just raster graphics that are made in it. All right, go ahead.
Yeah.
There's also 2D rigging and skeletal animation, which is another form of just essentially taking a single sprite and rather than animating it by hand like you would with sprite art, you apply a mesh to it and manipulate it using that. So it just does animations procedurally in Engine and saves a lot of time and is really good if you're making higher fidelity sprites, because it doesn't work too great with pixel art, but sometimes, like if you use Smack Studio here, they have like built-in tools for that exact thing. So there's a lot of tools to get what you want done. Also, before we go on,
you want to go to the demos?
Let's go ahead and look at the Spine demos. So this is a free software for creating skeletal animations that kind of has some examples that go over some of the broader differences between sprite animation and what id Software has to offer, stuff like that. So you can see here the kind of procedural aspect of it. It will, regardless of the frame rate, interpolate between the positions programmatically compared to the sprite sheet, which at lower frame rates, or at lower speeds, I guess, gets fairly choppy. Next up, it's got just some features of, like, it still uses sprite sheets, but you are able to use that in a variety of contexts. Let's see, layers, yeah. We won't spend too much time on this because it's just kind of an overview of the software itself. If you want to learn more about it, it's readily available. It's got this one, that's pretty cool. Layering.
It's a duck guy. Cool.
But yeah, this is really great for like anything procedural, anything that requires a lot of different states, anything that.
Oh yeah, this one's cool.
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah, you can kind of, you can change, I think, where it aims. Yeah, check that out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you don't have to do all that by hand, which
Yeah,
is,
which
like,
is great.
really, really nice.
We're done here?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff on that. You know, the slides will go up, so you guys can check it out later. Oh, look at that.
Okay, and then lastly, there's vector graphics, which game engines don't really like rendering actual SVG files. It's a bit more expensive than raster graphics.
Sorry. I'm trying to go full screen. I don't know why it kicked us out.
Oh, wait, what is it? Not full screen.
Yeah, normally, was it F11?
No, it should just be the slideshow itself, if you want to just go out.
Oh, yeah,
and go
which
back
is,
in.
yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, okay, good enough.
Okay. But vector graphics still have an important function that they can fill in game dev, which is that they are. They are scalable and therefore very easy to resize for things like UI elements or character designs that you're not sure how you want to fit into the screen space. So you can be a little bit more carefree with how you're sizing things from the get-go. And then when you're ready to export it and put it into the game engine, it's a lot easier to get it on a lot of different levels of fidelity, that sort of thing. Okay, moving on into some game art workflows that you'll need to know when making 2D art and animations. First of all, just sprite sheets. This is the way that sprites are animated in Engine. Essentially, you just get this big old PNG, usually with a transparent background, that compresses all of your animations into rows and columns, and you then key that in the game engine itself. Got some examples here. Yeah, that's about it here as well. There's easy ways to export sprite sheets in most of the softwares we're going to be covering, so yeah. There's also some unique workflows for environment art. The main one that you'll have to worry about in 2D games is tiling and auto-tiling. The top diagram there is a common format for auto-tiling, and essentially the way it works is you overlay this bit mask onto the tiles in this grid, and it represents different connection points. So this is basically just brute forcing all of the possible connection points to like, I wish I could like reach that high up. Yeah, just hover over a random one. Now on the actual grid.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so that one. The center bit is always true because that's the tile itself. The bit on the bottom that is colored red, which is true, just indicates that it has a single connecting tile that is right below. So if you move down to the actual sprite here, you can see that it's been formatted so that that border doesn't extend underneath it because it's connecting to a tile below it. So that's kind of the gist there. There's also, down here, sprite shapes which allow you to take tiles and manipulate them on top of a mesh and create more organic and unique shapes in your game world. But there's a bit more of an overhead to that workflow. In Godot, in particular, it requires a third-party plugin, and Sprite Shape is like just a built-in thing for Unity. But yeah. Okay. There's also parallaxing, which we'll be going over a bit later. But this is just essentially in a lot of side-scrolling games, you'll have backgrounds that move at different speeds from the layers in front of them. And that just kind of creates the illusion of depth. It's good for helping your game world feel alive. You can kind of see the different chunks of layers in this image here working in that GIF. And also, use layers.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so for some software that we have for good pixel art options, the main one that I would recommend is Sprite because it's cheap, it does its job really well, and it's a really robust software. It also has a free branch called LibreSprite that's like a fork of an older version. There's also Pistol, which is a browser-based pixel art software that kind of like sucks a little bit, but it's there and it's really accessible. Pixel Studio, which is like a mobile version of Sprite, but a little bit worse. And then Krita and Photoshop have their own setups for pixel art workflows as well. You can use MS Paint even. And then just a kind of more niche tool, but it's cool that it's there. So basically, if you take anything away from this workshop, it's to go get Sprite because it's really good, or also, I guess, Krita. But like mostly Sprite. Yeah, go ahead.
No, this is the next one.
Oh, I didn't see it. Yeah, there's also plenty of options for raster art software. You got Photoshop, you got Krita, Procreate, GIMP, all fairly self-explanatory. Main idea is this is software agnostic, it's art, they'll all work. And then lastly, just some options for vector art. I don't know as much about the workflows, but I have used both of these and they're pretty good. There's probably a lot of other options available that I'm just less familiar with, but yeah. Moving on to color theory. Okay, so what is color theory? Color theory is the conventions behind colors and how they relate to each other in different contexts. So there's a lot of key terms to know going into color theory that kind of help you understand the relationships between colors. And this can be really important for making your game's art readable, which is an important factor in design. So first of all, there's just hue, saturation, and value. This is one of several formats for like giving colors quantifiable like axes, I guess. And what this means is, and it's represented here by this color picker, that you've got your hue, which is your color, your tone. You've got saturation, which is the amount of that color in the particular color that you're working with. And you've got value, which is how dark the color is. So, yeah, there's also hue shifting, which is demonstrated here. You see two of the same gradients. These colors use the same saturation and the same value, but they shift the hue across the board in this one, and this one does not shift the hue at all. And you might be able to see that this one creates a lot more dynamic of a palette to work with. It has a lot more like indication of color temperature, stuff like that. Let's see. We've also got contrast, which is demonstrated right here. This is a particularly important one to game design and game art because it really impacts the readability of your game. So with this one, you can see we have a much higher contrast with this one. And it makes a lot of the segments of the sprite's body a lot more readable from a glance than this one. So just something important to consider there. We've also got implied value, which is a pretty big part of contrast as well, and thinking about making your sprites contrast nicely. We'll demonstrate that here. These two colors, kind of like with this palette over here, have between the two of them the same saturation and value, but they are different hues. And when ran through just a quick contrast filter, set them to grayscale so you can view the contrast, you see that their value is quite a bit different. So yellow has the brightest implied value, and purple has the darkest. Yeah, so essentially just different hues have a different implied value, and that affects how they contrast with each other. Let's see. Lastly, just color tone, complementary colors. All important things to think about when making sprites, particularly character designs. You can see Hat Kid up here makes use of complementary colors with the yellow and purple again. Yeah, just some good terms to know going into the artistic process. All right, now we're gonna get into some animation. So, you want to take over for this?
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
Alright, so in animation, there's kind of like 12 main principles that you follow. We're only gonna probably go over a few of the principles in a second, but yeah, these are just like some of them. But yeah. Alright, so some of the animation principles that for me, or just like I find using most often are things like squash and stretch. So the squash and stretch is just like managing like the volume of your objects. Sometimes you'll want to exaggerate it when like moving or during any action, and just like keeping the volume of that object in mind. You can kind of it's kind of material dependent. So like think if it's like a hard object, it's not gonna squish as much, or if it's just like a bouncing ball, it's gonna squish a lot. Another principle is anticipation. It's an action that shows that something's about to happen. So, for example, if you're to throw a punch, there's not any anticipation behind that. You're gonna have some sort of pose before the punch comes out. So it just adds a little bit more weight on it. This can obviously depend on the context of whatever you're trying to animate. So if you want it to be a bit more instantaneous, yeah, go for it. And another principle is slow in and out. It's kind of easing the motion in between poses. So this is just kind of the idea of that actions start and end slowly, but in between it's just kind of moves pretty fast. So here to here, it's slow, fast here, things like that. And then finally, or last but not least, is appeal. So when animating, some things to keep in mind is good character design. It can really help just sell out the motion that it's still readable for the gameplay.
Yeah, before we move on, also, something I wanted to cover on this slide is how this is relevant to broader game design discussions. In particular, I want to focus on this GIF right here. So, this is demonstrating the concept of anticipation, but I guess I'll throw this out to the room. If you were using this sprite as an ability for a player character, let's say just some sort of laser beam ability that they have, which of these two options would you want to give the player for their ability?
Second one.
This one?
Yes.
What do you think that?
I think that because it has a lot more animation, it has a lot more character to the animation, thus making it more interesting for the player.
Okay.
In the back?
Yeah.
Actually, it depends on the use of the power of the laser sight. If it's a basic attack, then you wouldn't want a player to have significant these very knocks that sprite back a little bit. So you wouldn't want a player to have that for literally a basic attack. It's a more powerful attack or a super attack. That might be a trap the player might want to be able to make.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yes, that is kind of what I'm getting at here. Both are valid options, I think. And the reason that I say that is because there's something you have to think about when it comes to the design of your game and your abilities that is really important when it comes to the animation. For this one, assuming that the first frame of animation is the big laser beam right there, you are going to get that instant feedback. The second you press a button, the laser goes off. And your player is not going to have to wait for the anticipation of the animation to build up. For this one, maybe you want the move to have that built-in anticipation so it's a little bit more difficult to use, or it has some sort of charge. Or maybe this is something you would use for an enemy so that it can kind of telegraph its moves. But yeah, all that to say, when it comes to game design, these principles, the weight, the timing of animation and all that is something that you really have to be taking into account when it comes to making informed design decisions. But yeah.
Alright, so these are just like some kind of small animations that kind of incorporate some of the animation principles that we kind of just went over. So for this one, it's just like a dog, it's biting. So kind of like some key poses that were kind of like used in this animation. It's just like standing dog, and then just like kind of the jump up before the bite, and then the actual bite, right? So there's like the use of anticipation, just like kind of like hanging in the air just for a little bit, and then once there's the actual bite, you're like squashing and stretching the dog, as you see there, very squishy. And then just for like in between, just like really self-emotion, it really helps with to like have some slow in and out frames, and just some like follow through for like the ears or just some other bouncy parts for the dog.
Yeah, look at that smear frame too,
Oh, yeah.
right here. Good to have that. Especially, it kind of goes well with like the swiping motion you have in white up here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's like another one. This is like a little bit more simple. It's just like a slime. It's not really doing much other than just like squishing down. Just again, applying that squash and stretch. Just like going down in one direction, going out in another. And then when it pops back up, it's still doing that. And back again to like in betweens. It's just like kind of slowing down as it's nearing the end of like the bounce. And keeping in mind that this thing is like squishy, I want to like kind of make sure it's like bouncing back in between like those frames before returning to its original size.
Okay, so before we move on, we're going to jump into a quick exercise. This is like a pretty common exercise to kind of get you into the mindset and thinking about animation, where we're just going to animate a ball. So I'll have all of you open the art software of your choice, and if you don't have one of those, using Piskel, the browser-based pixel art software, is a fantastic option for this. And just kind of mess around with it. See if you can kind of replicate some of the principles we've been covering. See if you want to use it for frames of reference. I'll leave these GIFs up in the background. But just experiment, get yourself into the kind of headspace for working with this sort of thing. And yeah, so I'll set a timer for 15 minutes. And if anyone needs help, also, just shout out, the three of us can assist with stuff.
And so then you're going to go through like the walk cycle.
Yeah.
Walk cycle's good. Because that was one point I was like, I just got to do a walk cycle for my game. Oh yeah. And you know, I'm still like not 100% on it, but it's, you know, you gotta get practice.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Like layers. So there's also something I don't like about this game is like which you can change here.
It is like
Oh, yeah. Oh, like onions. I don't know actually, but if you look up just like It's also this like you could show up, but I'd be really surprised if they didn't have something
I will allow you to buy that, but I will not allow you to buy that.
Oh, see, I've been this way. Oh, you know what? It's probably house. Yeah, choose how to give yourself space on all sides. Yeah, I counted so in the drive, a spreadsheet, it's called like a I thought this was like last week. I looked at the days and I was like, hey, this is great. I thought no, you're
Oh, and this is a 3, 2, 1. And what is this 2, 3? Yeah. Ah, I see.
There is right here, quickly, because I'll time what I'm about to go over is I don't use recycle and just into a process, and then we're going to provide some while make something for you. Did you just do that? Dude, nice. Yeah, I was gonna, after this is done, for people who would finish stuff, I was gonna have them just send it to export something. So I can show on
Wait. It was 3 and then 2 and then what? And then it went up. Was it really like this? Three, and then 2. 2 to the right. Oh, and then switch in. Is that not it?
yeah.
You said 4.
So I'll say if you want to get to animating and messing around with it, I would say don't worry about the shape and consistency. Just worry about. Well, that's okay. And also that's what I'm saying. Don't worry about it. Just get something on the screen. It can be like a dot. It can be something. Just like a point in space, and then try and mess around with how that'll move across screens.
I love it. Wait, the honestly, where did I mess up? 3, 2, 1, 2, 3. But 4.
Yeah, I think I saw 2 people use the circle total.
Oh, it was
Well, you know, Fiscal
in general
just doesn't have it's so bad.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm
Yeah,
like,
I was telling somebody it's a good place to start if you just really want to just like get some like really cheap practice and you want to go through the effort. But like as soon as you get to Ace, right? Especially if you've done a good bit of Fiscal, it's like immediately I'm like I can learn this way faster.
but yeah, it's what was I saying? I was using it earlier to set up. I wanted to have project files available for both Ace Write and Fiscal. It sucks. It's so like I was like I can't believe I used to. I don't want to recommend it. I want to recommend it as like, ooh, nice. That's looking really good.
Yeah, see
Yeah.
how small it is too. That's yeah. That's,
Yeah.
All right, now how do I animate? Monica, how do you animate?
It's like a it was like in Space Station Alpha. Whatever.
Maybe I
Like a
should
very like low res.
Yeah.
Oh, copy.
Like a little like 4x4 guy. Not 4x4. Yeah. Something like that. 8x8 maybe. Really small pixels are interesting. I feel like I gotta work in like a pretty good space though.
Yeah. Starting with small pixel art.
No, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, well, honestly, I think the way I learned it, this is what I probably would recommend to someone if I was put on the spot, is like, man, just take like Chrono Trigger art and just look at it for like a day.
Yeah.
And just sort of figure out why like the colors are like that, or just like redraw it.
Yeah. Yeah. Or
Sort
like
of get a feel for like the shapes and all that.
I really also like A Link to the Past is another great one for reference.
Or those any of those YouTubers we link, they have really good tutorials. Like, you just kind of get an insight into like, this is the workflow. This is an exercise I can do. Yeah, I vouch for all those.
Yep. Also, was it you that linked the other blog?
Yeah.
Okay, I hadn't seen that one before. I'm gonna have to look at that. It looks like it has a lot of good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like Spider's Resource. They finally updated the website too.
I noticed that.
Got a
Yeah.
better layout now. But yeah, Spider's Resource, sometimes I'm disappointed, like stuff they don't have. Like a lot of Street Fighter characters don't have it just because there's so many sprites you have to.
Yeah, there was something I was looking on there for this that they didn't have that I was pretty disappointed about, but I'm forgetting what it was.
You know, I find fighting games usually have their own websites for sprites anyway. They do. Because a lot of that's like frame data.
Because it's yeah.
So yeah, that's why it's on the site. Like Street Fighter, there's like you can look at a character on like a website and have like all their sprites from the games.
Yeah.
It's frame data.
Maybe I should have given a timeline for this, but I don't know where I would have fit that.
Yeah, like well, there's different like, you know, like with fighting games, you're working with a lot more resolution almost always, just because you want to convey that like motion and that anatomy to some degree.
Yeah.
You can, I don't know. It's good to have you, especially that's like character design stuff. Like you know, Zangief's gonna have a good grab. You know, Dulcim has like long reach. I mean, he stretches, but his design also conveys that because Dulcim's very bony and kind of, you know, yoga and twisty, so you can obviously do some stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know that
I'm gonna take another.
Yeah, take another gander. We got
10 minutes.
8. Yeah.
I gotta take another look at Oh, that is, yeah, no, I see that.
Yeah, I need just Yeah, I would exactly. I mean, it was like those companies in like awesome office.
Oh, like still
I'm not selling myself.
Are you gonna like play against everybody?
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Just a picture of him. Oh yeah, that's kind of well. Well, I think the Wait, is that like? I actually do this. Oh, I see. So tight. I can just
Pretty good.
Yeah, well,
Okay, we got 3 minutes left on the timer, so start wrapping up. Get your finishing touches.
I don't know about you, but I'd be drawing my pixel art with a with a mouse sometimes.
I honestly use a mouse most of the time.
Yeah. I mean, well pixel art, you know, you're just looking at each pixel.
I swap to tablet when I'm drawing like portraits and stuff like that, like higher stuff that's still pixel art. But
I have a stylus, but sometimes it's a touch screen, so I just like on my laptop screen, so I just go.
yeah, that's kind of nice actually. Yeah, I haven't had a touch screen on my laptops.
It's not
forever.
perfect. It's kind of, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's not like a perfect thing. Honestly, iPad kind of fire.
Yeah, I've been meaning to get one because
Yeah, I used to have one.
yeah.
I think it'd be really good professionally. I think that's kind of pivoted on. Well, there's iPad for baby, but there's also iPad for.
iPad for adults.
Yeah, iPad for
artists.
3D modeler people and
Yeah.
graphic designers. And,
Jeannie, what do you think about No, she did. I did it. There was sort of asking about cars and I cars. And I was like, you know, I used to have cars. You see it? Oh, God. I used to have this was all I had. But cars.
I don't want to. But also, that is not even
Yeah, it wasn't just
it's gonna be tough. Very simple.
Oh my. Oh wait, I can animate
Well, it's already a short hair.
It's kind of just because it's like
It's already domestic, right? I think someone like Flash like took over like random. He's an X-Men. I think it is David. It's a big cat. It's like a gopher. We're gonna give it
It's also
gonna draw Chicago.
okay. Wow, that really works. That's time. If you would like to send what you've been working on in the Discord, if you want to just flood the share your work chat, we can look at them after the end of the lecture, I think.
Yeah, but before.
Yeah.
Well, when do we want to do it?
Well,
Yeah.
because I don't want to just wait for them to be sent. But
Yeah.
yeah, so we can just do it after the.
Yeah, people can keep working on it too during the thing if they don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because we got to go back to. Oh yeah. Here we are.
Yeah.
After
okay.
the exercise. Yeah.
Yeah. Just send it and share your work.
Share your work. Share your work.
Okay. Now after completing.
Sorry, I just saw the.
It really is.
It really doesn't work.
It's up there. You can't. It's off screen. You can't see it.
No, it's next to it. It's the left.
Oh, he's saying, how do I freaking animate?
Yeah, who taught him that? Who taught him to talk like that?
But yeah. Now that you're done with the first exercise of tonight's meeting, you might be wondering, how do I freaking animate? So we're gonna jump into something a lot more complex, and we'll see how it goes. But what?
Is that Baby Shrek?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, so we're gonna jump into something a lot more complex that is going to cover a lot of these principles simultaneously, and that is a run cycle. This is your kind of like every character needs one of these, otherwise how do they move? At least if they're a humanoid. So if you haven't done one of these before, don't get overwhelmed because it might be a little overwhelming, but don't do that. But having said that, I'm going to jump into my personal process for animating a run cycle. These slides will be available as a point of reference for that if you'd like to follow along with them or just use them as reference post facto. But yeah, we're going to jump into it. So, what are you going to learn from a run cycle? While it is a very specific exercise compared to animating a ball, it is a great way to start thinking through the steps that you might take to create another animation. So all of the things that you have to take into account while working on a run cycle are the weight, the gravity, the timing, the secondary motion, which is like the actions in response to a primary action. So like if I don't know, shake my head, my hair's gonna move. That's the secondary action. Working with several moving parts and making a seamlessly looping animation. So let's say we've got this base sprite up there, and we're like, that's a really cool character design. I gotta make it move now. How do we do that? First thing we're going to do is not use that sprite because there is way too much detail, way too much rendering. You're going to have to do this in passes. So we're going to break it down to its simplest components and make a base character. Importantly, we are going to use arbitrary colors for each animated segment. And the reason they are arbitrary is because this is a point where you should not be thinking about color, you should not be thinking about rendering, you should only be thinking about the motion and making the motion look good. Also, you best be using them layers. Okay, so we're going to start with isolating and animating the first piece of that base figure, which for my preference is just starting with the head. To make things simple for ourselves, we're going to take that sprite that was on the base figure, and we're just going to copy and paste that across a bunch of different frames. I like to do 8. And basically just shift its position to get a nice motion arc going. So we've got this kind of back and forth bobbing going on, and that's just to kind of emulate the motion of the head. And if that's where you want to stop with this, that is perfectly workable. But if you want to take things to the next step, you can also take into account the rotation of the head as it's bobbing, as you're kind of like moving your shoulders. And this would be a good time to start thinking about that as well. All right, go ahead. So, once the head's in a good spot, we're going to start with our next animated component. I like to do the arm. And for the arm, we're going to start out with just 2 pivot points, the shoulder and the hand itself, because those are the only points of reference, other than the elbow, which is a little bit more organic, that we need to worry about from the get-go in terms of maintaining their position relative to each other. So in this top GIF here, what I've kind of outlined behind the hand itself is the motion arc that we're going to be using for this. And something I want to highlight there is, first of all, the utilization of the slow in, slow out principle in practice. You can see that the frames positions are really clustered heavily towards the furthest out position and the furthest back position of the arm. Additionally, something a little bit more nuanced here is that this is not a back and forth motion, this is a cyclic motion. And when it comes to making sprites that are readable and appealing, that is an important thing to just be thinking about so that it can just essentially look nice. Yeah, once you have a nice arc of motion established for your shoulder and your hand, it is not super easy still, but a much simpler process to just connect them. So all you're really doing here is like, all right, where's the elbow? I'm going to connect the dots. And in general, for a regular humanoid, worrying about the exact shape and maintaining it is not super important at this stage.
Yeah, I mean, I can even look at this up here and kind of, my brain's filling in the gaps already, so it's going to be not as much work, you know, once you get those, yeah.
Okay, so to kind of complete both of the arms, once you're done with the first one, the second one is like super easy. Because what you can do is you can just take that layer that you animated your front arm on, copy it to a back arm layer, shift it forward by half of the frames, and then move those back. And this is what you end up with when you rearrange your colors and stuff. From there, you can just bump this layer over to be in position with where the other shoulder would be, and you're done. Unless if you have an asymmetrical character design, in which case you need to deal with that. But you don't need to do that. Okay. One thing to address with arms being covered now is that that is kind of a like swinging pendulum animation that's happening. And that is a great time to think about introducing smear frames, which is another really important concept for game art. Other use cases for it are, again, attack animations. And the reason they're important in game design in particular is because when it comes to making animations for games, you have to kind of worry about like the frame data of it all, like where is my hitbox enabled, where is the attack valid. And so you're not always working in the exact time constraints that you might be for an animation that's like more fluid. So you have to think about how to interpolate this motion between two frames in a much more constricted environment, I guess. So thinking about using smear frames versus just taking the time to like actually make in-between frames is just, I think, a good thing to consider at this stage in animation while you're making things that are actually moving across space. Next up, torso. So the reason I like to do the head and arms first is because it makes the torso really simple to think about, because you can just think of it as, all right, I already have my hips for my base figure. They don't need to move vertically or horizontally at all. They just need to move vertically a little bit to get that kind of like leaping motion. Now the upper part of the torso, or like I guess the chest area, that's just, again, another kind of connect the dots. You have your shoulders in position, you have your hips in position, just connect the dots. Yeah. Let's see. For the legs are probably the most complicated part of a run cycle. Because there are just a lot of like, they're again a swinging pendulum motion, but they have more things to think about. So I like to start with thinking about the position of the knee and just getting it moving. And there's a couple of considerations to make there. First of all, make sure that your leading leg is the opposite of your leading arm for maintaining the weight balance. Or distribution of weight, I guess. Additionally, your knee doesn't go, it can go this far forward, but it can't go that far backwards. So having it look natural means you can't just like swing your leg back that far. Yeah, once you're happy with the arc of motion of the knee, again, that just kind of swinging pendulum, you can add the foot in relation to it, kind of just thinking about where it might be at that point in a run. This is a lot more complicated because it's not just that same swinging pendulum motion, and you're kind of thinking about the rotation of the foot. So looking at reference is really helpful. Yeah.
Where can we find reference?
Right here, and also in some resources that I will provide at the end of this, and also online, and also in life. If you really want to get into animating, especially for games, you're going to find yourself doing like a lot and looking like a nerd, but like in the environment of your own house.
Yeah, or grabbing like your action figure and just kind of.
Or that, yeah.
Yeah, which that's honestly that's harder than you. That isn't as helpful as I thought it would be. Sometimes just doing it yourself, yeah, it's kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. To finish off the legs, again, just a exercise of connecting the dots. You've got your knee, you've got your hips, you've got your foot. I would encourage you to think about maintaining the shape of the thigh and the calf, but compared to getting the motion down, it's not very important. And yeah, with that, at this stage of the process, oh, I guess also, yeah, for the legs, same trick as the arms, copy the layers, offset them. It's so much easier than animating it again, and it looks very natural. But yeah, that will conclude the basic silhouette, and we'll get into the more individual things. So I will kind of cruise through these because they are not very important to the default run cycle, but for animating that initial character. Just going over the process itself is important. So at this point, I like to block out the accessories. And you'll notice I chose the colors that they were in the beginning, mainly because they had more intricate parts that I had to worry about for like position and rotation, stuff like that. I also added the like poofy pants because I forgot about those earlier. And this is also where a lot of the secondary motion comes into play, like the hair, for a lot of characters, although that doesn't apply as much to this character. Go ahead. And then, once everything that like makes up that initial character sprite is in play, we can go ahead and do a color pass, and this is to make sure that we're, again, going back to color theory, thinking about contrast, thinking about if our color values in place still make the animation readable, and if there's any issues, making any minor tweaks. And then you draw the owl, you draw the rest of the owl, you finish it. This is, again, very individual, not something we need to worry about right now, but just so that you have a basic understanding of what this process looks like, this is the very last step, and it will take you the longest. It took me a while to get from that last slide to this one. And the way I recommend going about it is doing it pass by pass by pass. So you're going to start with, you saw for the goggles, for instance, they were just blank yellow areas in the previous slide. Render those for every frame. And then once you're done, move on to that brass arm, and then move on to the hair, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a very iterative process, I guess. Okay. As for some additional resources, if you are wanting to get more into animating, particularly for games, I would highly recommend using any of these resources. Let's see. We've got some great YouTube channels here. If you go to this one, you'll find that I basically just was like, you know what, he teaches this really good, I'm going to do it the way that he does it. There's also, this is the artist for Celeste, has a really comprehensive blog of tutorials. I don't, if you want to go over this one, I'm not familiar.
This one just has like a fair number of like small animation, like pixel art related tips and tricks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those last two I put there, were you done?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, those last two, those are, so like the first one, that YouTuber Brandon, he just has a lot of really good kind of, I guess I call them exercises in pixel art, where, you know, it'll be like a study of like a certain character design and sort of translating that into, you know, maybe even animation, but usually just kind of like a really, just getting one really good frame in there. Spider's resource is great because you can just sort of look at what, you know, your favorite games have done. It, you know, breaks down all the animations down to, you know, a sprite sheet, and you know, you can use that as like a temp asset, or you can just kind of study it. I know I kind of learned the color theory of pixel art specifically by just really looking at Chrono Trigger a lot, because, you know, honestly, if it's a Square Enix game or a Capcom game, it's from like the 90s or the 2000s, the art's going to be really good and really inspiring, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Now, this is the point at which, if you are here to do game art specifically, you are unleashed. Go make something. I have an exercise here listed for you, which is to try and emulate the run cycle exercise that I went through earlier. You're probably not going to finish it, but you will engage with some of the components, and that will be really helpful for you. But if that's not something that you think you're up to, or if you're just wanting to still work on your ball animation from earlier, you can do that. You can also go to either of these blogs, and they have like animated tutorials on some smaller, more specific animation, just kind of workflows, reference points, stuff like that. So anything like that, I think just try to engage with animating, try and get something that helps you kind of get used to that workflow. Otherwise, if you are a programmer and you're here wanting to learn about asset implementation, about animation trees and players, things like that, then we'll get into that section next, and I'll go ahead and hand it over to Ian.
So we know how to draw now. So now
We know how to draw now.
We got art. Now it's time to do art. This next section, this is the crap you got to do to make that into a game. So this is the same deal as last time. I hope I put it in meeting resources. Let me take a check while you guys check too. There should be a link. It's the same link as before, but if you didn't get it last time, don't worry. You don't have to do the other parts to be ready. It's the link to the GitHub. You can download the zip. If you have the right Godot version installed, 4.4.1, you should be able to import that. So, is it in there? Okay. Wait, we'll jump over there. I already got it open. So yeah, we can see now I have like a little section here dedicated to some art stuff we're going to go over. You probably noticed we're using a lot of this guy, this kind of default asset that comes with it. But now, thanks to these guys, we got some really good assets here, so we can, make this look nice. So we'll just go in and go over to our art section and see what it wants us to do. Okay, so this first checkpoint we're going to go through is covering just general Sprite 2D stuff, but also how we can use the animation player and animation tree to control like what frame of the sprite we're on. So yeah, we have some code in place already within the character script that's kind of going over how we can modify some parameters that are in the animation tree that kind of affect what animation's playing. So yeah, based on our status. So to start, we're going to have to go down into the file system here, and we're going to, let's Control-Shift-O. We're going to open up the platformer character. And in here we have this kind of stretched default sprite. We're just going to undo that stretch real quick. And it's a bit bigger now, but we're going to work with that by getting our, let's see, which one is it? The example spreadsheet, I think this is it. Yep, you can see the character from our little lecture we just had. So we're gonna, right now this is just purely in the form of the sheet. And don't worry, we don't gotta do anything too crazy to that. We just kind of count up how many rows and columns we have. So we have, just this one row, but we have, looks like 10 in total. So what we do for that is we go to this handy animation thing on the right here. And we don't have any V frames. There's no rows, but there is columns. So we'll put in 10, and so this is sort of a default one. So like for reference. So we're just gonna go down here to frame, and we'll just set it to 1 for now. But we'll modify this in the animation player. And but before I do the animation player, I kind of want to show you guys how we're using our animations. And what you can do is, in the script, you can just like reference animation player in like a method, and then, you can call play on that. And then, all the animations I have set up in there, you can call them in code. But, if you're going to do a character, anything that's fancy, anything that has like a lot of animations, you're probably going to want to use the animation tree. And to do that, I have this method dedicated to doing visual display stuff. And last time all it did was just kind of, flip it horizontally, which I guess technically that didn't really have any effect last time because it was a symmetrical image, but this time it will. So what we have in place is we're calling on animation tree, and what an animation tree has is you go down into its kind of dedicated panel down here. And what you're able to do is, so when you're making the animation tree, all you got to do is create a animation state tree over here. And you set the animation player you're using. And what it's able to do with that is it's able to add those animations from the animation player as states within the state machine. And what that means is, so on startup, we're just going to get sent into this idle animation, which we have looping right now. And as you saw on the sheet, we don't really have any like multiple frames for the idle animation, but it's there if you guys want to kind of iterate on the sprite we already have. Likewise, we don't have like a dedicated jump or fall animation, but I'll show you a little trick we can do to take care of that. Then we got the run animation. So the way we're going to get between these are these edges, and you can draw them using this tool. So like, if we selected idle, we can drag it out here and then add animation. You can pick any of the ones you have there that haven't been used yet. I guess you could technically have like a duplicate. I don't know why you'd do that, but it's there. We're not going to worry about end. I don't think I've ever used that before. But let's say we want to get from idle to run. What we have in place to just keep it from going there automatically is we make sure you select the little pointer. You select this, and as you can see on the right, we have a panel dedicated to this edge. And the relevant section is the advanced section. And what this does is it lets us put in a condition. This works a little different from conditions that are just in scripts, but you'll see in the script we can modify the value of it. So we just name this one running. And you want to make sure you're using the same names for like related state shifts. So like I have running here, and then like let's say I'm falling or I've just jumped. We're going to use running also there. And like for getting back to idle from running, you have like, you could name it idle, jump, fall. And the way we set these in the script is a dedicated set method, and you just get the path of that condition. I believe you can just, if you go to the animation tree, you just select that node itself. You go into parameters and conditions, and these are just right here in the panel here, and you can just drag them in, and it'll give you the path. So that's the first, that's the first value for the set function. And then you're just gonna put the value that you're putting in there. And in these cases, we're doing Booleans. So the script already has like a dedicated walking Boolean that we've set up just kind of for this purpose anyway. It's also helpful for, some other movement code, but in this case, it happens to be perfect for establishing if we're not walking, if we're walking. And, what distinguishes a player who's, standing still or running from a player who's jumping is whether or not they're on the floor. And this is just a way you can kind of distinguish if you're jumping or falling. You just get the velocity and decide if that's, Godot's weird with Y. So if it's going down, the velocity is greater than 0, so it's falling. And otherwise, it's going up or standing still. So currently this animation tree is working. It's just that the animations, we're going to go in and see. We have the 4 animations down here in the animation panel. None of them have any frames in them. So we got to do something about that. Now, animation players can do a lot more than just work with art. It's more than just animation in the sense we've been discussing. You can animate any property of any node. You can add tracks that call methods. You can do fancy curves. You can do all kinds of stuff in 3D. But for our purposes, what we're going to want to do is within, like let's say we'll start with idle, because that's going to be the default one. So we add a track that's a property track. And what we're going to want to animate is the sprite 2D. Now, as you can see, earlier I was modifying the frame value for it, and that's exactly what we want to do here. I do recommend if you want to have kind of animations that might have like 2 different versions that can kind of dynamically cycle, you might want to animate like just the V-frame or whatever. You might want to kind of combine some of these different values here and sort of do some fancy transition stuff there. But for our purposes, we're just going to want that. And what we need to do is, now that we have this, you can see we have this handy key feature. And what we can do with that is just, it's good to go into the 2D view for this. One thing I should do real quick is just kind of fix the hitbox, just so we don't have to deal with that. I was talking to Max about this before, and something kind of nice you'll see with your tile set, we'll do it later, is sometimes you do want to have a little bit of offset at the bottom here, so it looks like they're kind of standing on the ground. So we'll just get like a rough approximation of what it looks like. If this is a hitbox for combat, you might want to be a little bit more broad with it or narrow with it, depending on what you're going for. But we'll just do this. So yeah, like I said, we're gonna click on the Sprite 2D, and you can add a track by just keying any of these properties, but we already have one for frame, so we will just key that. And so what happens when you press key is it moves on to the next frame, which is handy for something you'll see in a minute. But yeah, for now, we can just play the animation and see, yep, we're just idle. So, and we have a loop turned on, which would be great if we had like a cycling animation we wanted to show off. But for now, this is good. So next we want to do run. This is kind of the most complicated one. You know, for something like the first animation we just did, it doesn't really matter how long it is. This one we're going to want to play around a little bit more. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to move on to that first frame of it, and I'm just going to, oh yeah, it wants us to add the, see, this is the use case for what I was just talking about. We forgot to add the track. This animation immediately gets the track. You just press create. So you're just going to go through these different frames. Okay, so I think I might have added one duplicate in there. So if you hold control and scroll up and down, you can kind of zoom in a little bit. And we'll be able to kind of test out the timing however we want. So I think there may be, no, there's no duplicate in here. Okay, so let's see how, I'll just shorten this to 0.3 seconds and see how it looks then, but we're probably gonna wanna play around with it. I definitely recommend, you know, as long as you want, just kind of get a feel for how it is. There might be a little bit of a gap at the end here, we'll see. It's a little bit fast. Maybe if you were like sprinting, but we're just doing a regular walk, so. I'm thinking maybe half that speed. So, I'm sure there's probably a shortcut to just stretch it out, but I'm just gonna kind of, and you can see in real time, we can see how we're changing that. And you can definitely just, if you want to make it easy for yourself, unlike what I'm doing, you can kind of do the math and divide up the time. But we'll just kind of find an even spacing that, yeah, we're gonna give it a little bit more, I think. Oh no, we can drag it over some. I think this will fit. Yeah, we'll give it like maybe 0.7. I think that'll do the trick. You know, it'll be 0.9. It'll be 0.9 because there's 9 frames. Quick math. Yeah, it can be a long process, especially if we want to go further from here and have like a little bit of slow in and out. But I think for now, this is kind of okay. It's a little slow. I'm gonna definitely compress it a little bit, but yeah, let's see how much time is between these. Yeah, we'll just call it at 0.8. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Yeah, and we're happy with the, and you can, something great for like if you're doing a fighting game is, like I said, you can animate all these things. So you can animate that hitbox if you want to have a hurt box, or if you want to, you know, do a crouching animation, it'll shrink down. You could also like do it where you have like a second hidden, you know, collision shape for that like toggles on and, you know, the main one toggles off. There's a number of things you can do with it. You know, any property you can animate however you want, any kind of value. You may be able to even animate strings, I don't know. Probably not. Probably not a great idea. But yeah, like I said, there's no dedicated frame for jumping, but we can kind of look through, and I think we'll find that there's a frame that's close enough. I don't know, what do you think? This one? This is a fine jump, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. Good enough, you know? This is just if you're lazy. But honestly, though, with the method you talked about where you break it down into the limbs, like by layer, something you're going to probably find yourself doing sometimes is just, oh, this is the perfect arm pose for this jump I want to do. You know, that arm up like that, that's like what Mario does. You can do that. So we can just kind of shorten this one to be like 0.1, you know, it doesn't really matter. But Yeah, and this is this animation doesn't have a loop, but you could definitely, if you want to have some like hair bobbing stuff like that, you know, multiple frames of that, you can do that. And for fall, we'll just do yeah, it's fine, good enough. So yeah, and I believe if well, let's make sure that our character's not. Let's see. Uh-oh. Okay, it does not like something. P-frame. I haven't seen that before. Well, it doesn't like something we're doing in the output, but you can see, yeah, we have our animation states are working all right, and we can kind of see the jump run cycle. This is the kind of thing you definitely want to play around with as much as you can until it looks right, but you get the idea. Right now we're on this section, parallax. And parallax is something we talked about briefly during the slideshow. And all that really is just, yeah, you want to sell that illusion of depth, you know. If you've ever gotten bored on a car ride, you're going to notice how things move on the horizon as you go along, so. I'm really curious what's causing this. I don't know what I did. Like, look, that was every frame, man. You don't want to do that. Jeez. Yeah, where's that happening? I don't know. I'm just going to not worry about that. Hopefully, you guys following along, that didn't happen to you. We'll see. Okay, so I have, this is a dedicated node, a dedicated set of nodes. And you're going to need a parallax. I call these the same thing, but this node is actually called parallax background. This one's a parallax layer. So it'd probably be better just call this parallax layer. But the idea is, what these share in common is these parameters related to offset, scale, things like that. And what that means is, here we'll drag a, I don't know, this in here. So we want to, yeah, we drag that onto this sprite 2D that's underneath it. And what that's going to do is just, you know, set the sprite. And, you know, if we go in now, it's just going to kind of stay in place like it's a regular old node. But where the node that we're using comes in is we're able to change the scale of it a little bit. And, you know, it's a little finicky depending on your resolution. You might want to, you know, play around with it, figure out what looks good for you. But so here's how this works. So scale, this basically decides how it's moving, you know, compared to the camera. And what that really means is, you know, 0 is it's not going to move at all. 1 is it kind of moves with the camera. Or hold on. 0 is, jeez, why is it everything I change? I don't know why. Okay, so 0. This is what it looks like. It's not moving. It's staying with the camera. If we make it 0.1, it's going to move kind of slowly. And let's say you want to do like a foreground thing. So it's the opposite principle. So you do like slightly more. And it's not going to look good because it's in the background right now and we don't have the foreground stuff configured. But it's moving in a way that would be, you know, appropriate for that case. So let's say we want to have something, yeah, we'll just set it back to 0.1 or yeah, 0.2. Why not? And we don't want it to move vertically, let's say. And you know, you're able to use offset and mirroring to kind of affect if it, you know, repeats or not, like what direction it repeats in. If you want to have like a looping background, offset kind of decides where it's positioned at the start, which, you know, again, if you want to make it kind of fit the resolution and, you know, look good with all the rest of your assets, you're going to probably want to play around with that for a while. But yeah, we'll just drag, so we have the horizon, and we'll put that on this one. And actually, we want to drag this above so it's behind. And there's a few ways you can change the ordering. You know, there's ordering as like a Z-index thing over here, but also there's just decided by the scene tree order. And let's say for like the sky, we wanted to, I think the sky you probably want to stay in place. So that's a case where you would use just that 0, probably 0 for, but you can definitely have clouds move. Like what you could probably do is have the sun as its own thing, because the sun's super far out, so it's going to move completely differently. But just as a fixed thing, let's say we put a little bit more time in this, it would look pretty good. But for now, it works. Yes, I will. I'm really curious what's causing all that error down there. So we have this kind of ending area here, but this is a really big walled scale. So what we're just going to do is we're going to build a way up there, but we have this kind of boring set of terrain here that's just this white tile. But that's no good, it doesn't really work with the rest of our assets. We can really just do better. And what we have for that is we have a basic tile set right here. And all we're going to need to do to make that look really nice is we're going to need to get it in there, break it up, and we're going to need to set some stuff so it has collision and so it has auto tiling. So what we got to do first is you got to get out of the tile map part of your section down here, and you want to go to tile set. And this is going to give us everything we need. So we do a plus down here, and tile maps and tile sets are great for if you want to have if you want to place enemies on a grid, that's fine. But if you're just placing this art, you just do Atlas. You click Atlas, and then you're going to go into your file system. We're going to go under sprites, and we have the basic tile set export. And because we formatted it properly in a grid and it's all nice and organized, we're just gonna, it's kind of automatically broken up. So we automatically create tiles. Great. And yeah, it cut it up nicely. And it'll probably look familiar. I don't think this was the exact one we used for demonstration in the slides, but it follows the same format. So first we're just going to take care of the most simple thing, which is giving it that collision, and what that is under is physics layer. And the reason these are here instead of just not there like they normally are by default is because on the tile map layer we went under physics, it's under, oh yeah, we click on the tile set under that's attached to that, and then under that we have physics layers, and we can decide like what layer it's on, and we have we have this stuff, so we have it set up. And you'll see when we get to the auto tiling, this is where the terrain sets are too. But for now, we just want to paint physics layer 0, which we have set up onto that. And if you want to do a slope, you could delete one of these edges. But for now, we just want to, you can click along these edges to add an extra point, and you can kind of move them around as you want, whatever polygon shape you want. But for now, we'll just do this. And what we can do with that is it's under paint. So we can just simply paint that onto all these. You can see the blue overlay. Now there is one that's empty, but it's not going to let us paint that until we, kind of force it to think of that as a, valid one, which we don't want to do because it's invisible. But if you want to, it's there. So yeah, we have that. If we were to go into the tile map and just pick one of these and draw it, we'll bring it over here. This will have collision, but like I said, not great because you're gonna have to manually paint in the right ones. But you can see it has the collision, so it's a good start. So let me. The counts are so funny. Yeah, so we're gonna go into that same kind of tile set area under paint. But what we're going to do this time is we're going to go under terrains, and you can see we have under terrain sets, we've created a terrain set, and within that you'll create your own, like, I don't even know what you call it, like just a terrain set within the terrain set. I don't know. But you can select the color, but what you're going to want to do is you select that, you select the terrain, and what we're going to do first is we're just going to select all of the relevant tiles, which happens to be all of them except for that blank one. So we're just going to highlight all those. And this is just for the stuff that's related to your, needs to be considered for the stuff we went over. So, real quickly, I'm going to bring up that reference actually. It was Firefox that we used. That's right. Okay. Yeah, so this is just it's good to have a standard format, especially if you use this in multiple projects. It just kind of saves you time. I know I've made my own, it's not great, so honestly following this one's fine. But, yeah, we'll just kind of configure it here. So, and yeah, we can do it like this. So, we'll craft.
I'm gonna just give it to you on a different screen.
Yeah, we'll do that. This is a good use case for having multiple monitors. That's a pro tip. If you're thinking of getting a game development setup ready, we can just start with the ones that are pretty obvious, like okay, yeah, like even if you don't look at the format, you can tell like this is kind of a line here. So yeah, this is how that connects. This one's just one on its own. And yep, I'll just go through this. Feel free to follow along on your phone. And you just want to organize ones that are kind of, you can right click to erase. I should change the color actually, because it's hard to see over this. Yeah, that's better. But yeah, this is you definitely want to kind of pay attention to which ones connect up well from like when you're making whatever format you're using, just kind of, group the symmetrical ones that have kind of similar shapes. And you can just kind of drag between these, which is really nice because you can get the stuff down really quickly. Looks like I got that right. Up here, as if when you get to like when there's a lot of stuff on the edge. So yeah, we can just kind of match that same in the corners. I want to say there's probably a way to just kind of copy paste this between similar tile sets, but I haven't looked into that. This is let's see. Yeah, so you can see a lot of these are just, they mirrored the. And you don't have to be like 100% thorough with these, but you do want to keep in mind like what kind of layouts you're going to end up using the most for these. Okay, getting close to the end. So we go over here. This is like, like a cliff face, that kind of thing. So yeah, this one's got kind of like a rotational layout, which is pretty handy. This one's just filled in completely. I'm sure technically you can do ones where you don't fill in the center one, right? If you want to have like stuff on the edges, maybe. I don't know. I wouldn't. I wouldn't know because I haven't tried that out. But I've always thought that would be interesting to try. But I don't know. It can be a little like if you don't do it right, you'll definitely know because things start looking weird and inconsistent. But so far, I think I've gotten it all down right. Okay, almost done. Yep, this is just. And yeah, that looks about right. So let's get back into full screen on this so we can. So yeah, what we do now is we go to the tile map, and rather than painting using this, we're going to go under terrains right here, and we select that terrain. It's already in place, and you can do like this way where you can. It'll be like a line, but usually messes up. So what we're instead going to want to do is we're going to want to go over to the relevant area over here, and we're just going to, we have line tools, we have a square tool, we can kind of make a platform here. As you can see, looks pretty good. If we erase something, it'll automatically, tile to look good with that. But yeah, we'll just kind of create, maybe throw in like a platform here. Obviously, our character's kind of big, so I gotta be smart about this if I want to get it right the first time. So yeah, you can do that. And since this is the same tile map layer, you can just kind of overwrite some of these. It's not gonna really, it's gonna ignore those as far as the art's concerned. But yeah, we'll just hopefully I didn't block myself off over here. Oh, I did. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we'll just yeah, and like I said, erase is just right click and you can erase with like a square tool or whatever. And then we'll run over quickly. Yeah. I'm clapping for you guys because now you can do art. But yeah, some further topics. There's 3D art. If you know how to use Blender, this would be probably a different workshop in the future. But you can import stuff pretty easily there. Just make sure it's the right format. There's shaders for art. There's a whole separate language for that. That's kind of an advanced subject. We've done one on that before, but it's tricky because it's its own language. What else? What are some other ones? There's like other ways of animating stuff. There's like an animated like Sprite 2D, I think, which I think is good for simpler animations. Like if you're not going to use like
just like a single looping.
Yeah. Like if you want to have like a Mario coin that just turns, that's probably the fastest way to just get that up and working. If you're not going to do it. Although with that there's animation of it disappearing, so that's kind of you gotta really think before you pick the node you're going to use. And yeah, just the animation player, keep it in mind for, programming tasks too. It's definitely proven pretty useful, especially combining the animations we went over with, calling methods as a track. That's really helpful because sometimes you want to have the timing, but you don't want to have to coordinate between a timer and then, the length of the animation. But yeah, and there's definitely some other art things in Godot that are handy, but those are the broad strokes. So you got the character, you got the motion for that, and you got the environments and the backgrounds, foregrounds too, if you want to do that. Yeah. Yeah, I'm really curious. Why is? Let's see. It says index P frame. You know what P frame is? Maybe it's under Sprite 2D. P frame. Any questions? Yeah, there's V frames, H frames. No idea what a P frame is. 1 is out of bounds. V frames times H frames is 1. Okay. It probably started when I did those animations. Let me look there.
I kind of gave up with like the art for the game as of right now. The engine stops.
Hey, let me stop the stream.